Last time you heard from me, you heard about the Chicago Bulls. Now I will be flipping the script and I'll take a look at the members and stories of my past through the words of my dad. My dad, Dan McCauley, has quite the experience on Ancestry.com. His curiosity to explore our heritage led him through a vast journey into the past. So, what has he discovered with the many hours on his computer? Today I will talk to Dan and my grandma Carol to see what they have stumbled upon. The first question we need to know is how Dan even got into history and heritage.
So my interest in history, general history, was in high school, but I didn't become interested in heritage until about 3 years ago.
With this passion, Danny received a birthday gift. So with this gift, he was able to put his passion to action.
So after my wonderful 2 children and wife gave me an iPad for my birthday about 3 years ago, is when I started investigating on Ancestry.com. I'd always been interested. Up to that point, it was always something I wanted to do. I said, I'd love to research my family history. I'd love to get into genealogy, but it was always something that I never really could get to or knew how to do or what the first step would be. So when I got the iPad, there was, at the beginning, it was all the apps that you were trying, what app should I add? And as I was searching the different apps, I saw Ancestry.com, and I loaded it up, and I started. All I had to do was put my parents' names in, and their parents' names in, and then it started. And that's how my obsession started.
With all this information, what did he discover?
One thing that's shocking is just how much is available and how much has been lost. So a couple of the most interesting and shocking is that I had, on my father's side, I have ancestors that were fought in the Civil War and the American Revolution.
And what were the names of the people in the war?
The names of the people in the Civil War, the last name was Chaffee. Elmer Chaffee was born in upstate New York, and at the age of 19, mustered in for the Union Army and fought in the battles around Washington, D.C. before he got so sick, like a lot of the soldiers, they got sick during the war, and they sent him home, thinking that he was going to die from that illness. And thank goodness he didn't, because we wouldn't be doing this interview.
Elmer Chaffee and other ancestors were indeed from New York. So Danny took the family to the Big Apple to see what they could find. So you said he lived in New York. You went on an outing to New York. What did you do there?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, we decided to do a little informal family history tour to New York with my mother and a number of my brothers and sisters. So we did a number of things. I had a number of different addresses and cemeteries and churches that were part of my family history. So in Manhattan, we visited on my mom's side, the residence of her grandfather, who was a baker who came over from Germany in the 1880s. And we went and visited the buildings that he had his bakery, and even met somebody, the owner of that building, who let us in to one of those buildings and went to the basement, and the oven, part of the oven was still in the wall, it had been sealed behind the wall, but we could see the oven that he cooked. We then went to a number of cemeteries and found where a number of my ancestors were buried. We went to my mother's childhood homes, 2 homes out in Brooklyn and Queens. The church that she grew up to, went to school in, and that's the highlights.
My grandma Carol enjoyed all this information from her son, and from that she learned about herself. She expresses how Danny and Ancestry have opened new doors to her and people across the globe. So Danny has been on Ancestry.com. Have you learned anything? What have you learned from his experience on Ancestry?
Oh, Jesse, I've learned so much. The big thing I've learned is that I have some Irish on my mother's side. I didn't know that. And your father was able to locate that side of the family for me. And it's so interesting, and it's continuing. He hasn't finished yet. He's still doing more.
Yes, he is. That's great. Do you have any more questions that you have about history or your heritage?
He's always surprising me with the things that he's finding out, you know. And it's just nice to know, and I hope that my grandchildren will enjoy this information as they get older and can pass it on to their children, because it's nice to know where you come from and you know who your relatives were and where they came from. And I know some of his information dates back to the 1600s. Unbelievable, but it's great what you can find out today with all this new technology.